Hey, this is Notser, and we're going to be looking at the German cruisers today. The German cruisers will be receiving a change in 0.6.6. The public test server is up. Balance changes have been discussed on it. They showed off the American battleship Citadel changes. Gee, I wonder if that's a good change. Lowering the Citadel. I don't know. I don't really think we need to talk about that change. I think it's pretty safe to assume that yes, it is a good change, unless you like shooting them. But this is really about the German cruiser change. Now, currently in the game, all HE shell, except for the German battleship, is calculated by taking the gun caliber and dividing it by 6. So for 203, you divide that by 6, you get 33.83, repeating, of course. And it goes to the nearest integer, just like every math class you've ever dealt with. So it's going to be 34 equivalent that it can penetrate or do damage to. Now, the game requires that you clear the armor value by 1 millimeter. So I could penetrate and do HE damage, air quotes again, to 33, but I couldn't do HE damage to 34 millimeters of armor. It would shatter. Now, that's a pretty important threshold. It's not an accident that this is set up this way. That's basically the bow armor of battleships that it's relevant for. Obviously, it's different based on your tier, but for the relevant high tier 203 versus these particular ships, you will be able to do HE damage to their bow. The overwhelming majority of those battleships, you'll be able to do this. So what is this change? Well, they're going to be taking the German battleship change, which you should know this, but I wouldn't fault you for not, because nothing in the game communicates this. It's not a big deal or anything, you know, it's just something that should be in the game. German battleships currently have HE calculated by dividing by 4, the gun caliber. So 420, blaze that baby, gets to 105, equivalent penetration force for the HE shell. Nobody uses it though. Nobody uses it. You know, HE is really a last-ditch use for battleships. It's if the person is completely bow on, if you need to do just a little bit of damage and you want it, and most times you're just sticking to AP. So the existence of this, I don't really notice it on my German battleships. But I definitely will notice it when they bring it over to the German cruisers. Yes, they're bringing over the 1/4 calculation versus the 1/6 calculation that it currently has. And this is a huge change. This could cause the German cruisers to be my recommended cruiser line for a newbie. Now, why would I recommend that? It's just going to give you a little bit more leeway to make a mistake. You know, whenever you fire at a gun with HE, the HE is going to shatter because the gun has like 100, 200, 400, 500 millimeters of armor. Obviously, it's designed to take AP shells and ricochet them, let alone HE. It's not even remotely possible that your HE shell will do damage to that gun. However, having it on HE and firing at different parts of the ship, you know, maybe it drops down on the deck. The center of the deck has maybe 30 to 50 millimeters of armor. Maybe on a German battleship where they've got sort of the waterline extra armor zone on their bow and stern, you're hitting that. And right now it shatters. In the next patch, it will not shatter on these parts of the ship because 203 becomes basically 51 millimeters of equivalent penetration force. And that's a huge change. This adjustment might encourage players to consider using Inertia Fuse High Explosive on 203, 220, maybe even not using Inertia Fuse High Explosive on the 150, 155, because you're not really going to gain much more threshold. Nothing compared to changing it from 1/6 calculation to 1/4. So this is crazy. For example, if I have my German right now, 34 millimeters of armor with 203 right now. So there's no reason to get an Inertia Fuse. It's not going to get you to a new threshold. It's not going to get you to the 50 millimeter or I mean, you might. I think the German battleships, not the German battleships, the American battleships have like 38 millimeters of armor at the top of their hull, so it would be nice for that, but I mean, it's all about what does a single skill give you universally, right? And you're just not going to get 4 points worth of value out of it. It's so difficult to find value in skills. Outside of concealment, of course, because concealment is completely broken. It would be worth it if you spent 8 points on concealment. Just to let everyone know. But going from 34 millimeters right now with the 203s to 51 without adding inertia fuse is huge. You've just cleared a huge chunk of armor. We're talking about basically every deck armor in the game, except for a couple. There's a Yamato and a couple Germans. All the Americans, you know, the all-or-nothing schemes, that's not really relevant. But if you pick up inertia fuse, it gets to like 65, 66. That is adding the Yamato. I think it might add a little bit of armor zones on a couple ships. But is it worth it at that point? You know, that's not really relevant. This is talking about like long-range HE shells and the shatter potential. That's what it's really talking about at that point. You could probably spend those 4 points on 2 skills that would be worth more than inertia fuse could ever be. Whether inertia fuse becomes the de facto skill to take in the German cruiser line, or it's just a bonus that allows you to spend those 4 points on something else, the change is great. It's going to really help new players with their location because they're going to be able to do damage to the target, but they'll learn over time that, oh, okay, if I target this particular part of the ship, I will guarantee do damage. There won't be any issue when I transition to another cruiser line, or another cruiser line that doesn't benefit from this HE penetration calculation. So I've shared my opinion on this change. I doubt that I will make a video dedicated to discussing the Citadel change for the American battleships because, quite frankly, it's good. We know it's good. Go check out the Alabama if you want to see where that Citadel change went. Maybe in a larger, maybe 6.6 focused video, I would do it, but everyone knows that lowering the Citadel is going to make the ships take less damage. I mean, it just is. Everyone makes a mistake every once in a while and shows just a little bit too much side and they get a Citadel, and maybe this particular location will no longer get Citadel and you'll take less damage. Now, I thought it was funny that Wargaming was like, well, it will encourage them to be more aggressive. Ha! Yeah, right. That's not happening. They need to encourage aggressive play. I don't know how they do it. I did just suggest that maybe there's a larger area around a capture point that you benefit from without being directly in the capture point. You know, like if you're within a discussion of the capture point, then you are providing fire support for those in the capture point. You should benefit by getting more XP or something like that. The issue with the game is that you risk too much for the reward that you get when you're an aggressive player. The only ships that can really do it consistently are destroyers, and they're a pretty rare species. The Hunt for Bismarck, it just is really discouraged anything but battleships and cruisers, and it's kind of disappointing. But what do you think? What do you think of the changes to the German cruisers? Do you think this is enough? Do you want to see something else? I would also, maybe if it's not enough, have hydroacoustic as a dedicated slot for the cruiser line itself. That's something they could consider doing in the future. It's not like a huge deal to just add one more button. I know they're like, oh, there's too many buttons, but I don't really have a problem with it. Now, are there anyone who's interested in seeing at least a video on a game that just came out? I think it's a Steel Division or Steel Battalion Normandy 44. It's sort of like a, what do you make, like a deck of vehicles, tanks, infantry, and you load into a map and you use those against your opposition. Paradox does this. It's not a 4K. That's what Paradox is known for. God, what is it? Eurasia, Europa. They've got Heart of Iron and they got Solaris, right? This is a different game, but it is World War II. I would do one video on it, talk about it, give you my thoughts. I don't know if you're into that, but that's the sort of thing I'd like to do, is relevant content, discuss it. I like playing these games, you know. I don't know. What do you think? And as far as streaming, I really want to stream. I just can't sit for 5 or 6 hours and stream. I'm not there quite yet. So maybe on Friday I'll have a shorter stream. We'll see about that. I hope you all have a fantastic day. I really enjoy all the comments. Even if I don't reply, I'm reading them. All the really nice, oh yay, Notser's back. I love this intro. I could do it every day. That's what I like to read. That's what I like to read, okay? So take care, everyone. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.